similarities between this year's presidential race and that of 1980 are unbelievable, and they're getting stronger by the minute. So let's talk a little bit about what happened in 1980, because I think it's very instructive. Remember what things were like in 1980. The U.S. was just at the peak of inflation. Prices were going up by 15, 17% a year. Literally, workers were getting pay raises throughout the year to help them keep pace with inflation. And the Federal Reserve Board under Paul Volcker decided that unless inflation was to become a permanent part of America, destroying our savings and destroying our currency, it had to stop. And he had the courage to raise interest rates, not to 5 or 6 or 7, but to 20%. And the result was that the economy completely dropped dead. It stopped growing. Unemployment soared. Inflation remained high for the moment, about to come down, and interest rates were high. We had 20% interest rates, 14% inflation, and 10 or 11, 8 or 9 or 10 or 11% unemployment. It was absolutely an economic catastrophe. And then on top of that, our embassy staff and students and stuff were held, Marines were held hostage in the Iranian embassy for over 400 days by the Ayatollah and his minions. And it was a daily humiliation of the United States. And when Carter sent a rescue mission, he sent like 3 helicopters, and one crashed and the others turned back. And it was absolutely a ludicrous, pathetic attempt to rescue them. Never got anywhere near the hostages. So you figure Jimmy Carter's a dead duck. On top of that, he had a tough primary against Ted Kennedy, almost didn't win the nomination. So you figure Carter's meat that he's going to lose. But that didn't happen, because Carter's campaign was based on scaring people about Ronald Reagan. Now we look back at Reagan and we see the success that he enjoyed. But back then, the role model for Ronald Reagan was Barry Goldwater, who had run in 1964, and Johnson had defeated him because of the fear of nuclear war. Johnson had an ad produced by Tony Schwartz of a little girl picking petals off a daisy, saying, he loves me not, and then all of a sudden it becomes a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and it gets to 0, and an atomic bomb explodes. And as the mushroom cloud grows, Johnson, the Democratic candidate, said, those are the stakes. Either we must love each other or go into the darkness together and perish. And that was never mentioned Goldwater's name, but it obviously was a slap at Goldwater, who said he would favor using nuclear weapons in Vietnam. He claimed to defoliate the trees, but still using the bomb. And people were scared to death of Goldwater, and Johnson won an overwhelming landslide. And Ronald Reagan seemed just cut in the Barry Goldwater model. He had strongly supported Goldwater. He had done speeches for him, and everybody saw Reagan as just another crazy right-wing extremist. And Carter succeeded in vilifying him in just the same way, although not over the same issues, that Obama has been vilifying Romney. And it showed in the polls. Throughout September and October, Carter led. And on October 27th, Carter was at 45% of the vote, Reagan 39%. Then immediately after that, they had their first and only debate. And in that debate, everybody saw the Ronald Reagan you and I know and have come to know and love over the decades. A nice, kind, common sense, witty, moderate, reasonable guy with a conservative philosophy that he explained brilliantly. And we saw that he wasn't this monster that Jimmy Carter was making him out to be. Goldwater used to love to say things to drive people crazy. Everyone called him an extremist. So in his convention speech, he said, extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. Almost designed to alienate the voters. At one point, he said they should saw off the East Coast and let it float out to sea. But Reagan wasn't like that, and it became evident that he wasn't like that in the debate. Well, the transformation was amazing. Carter went from a 6-point lead to losing by 3 points on November 3rd, to ultimately a 9-point defeat on Election Day. So he literally is flip of 15 points in about 10 days. And that's really what you're seeing now in the Romney-Obama campaign. Whenever an incumbent vilifies the challenger and then lets him face them in a debate and you see that the challenger is not the monster he's been depicted as, and the incumbent regime is admittedly a total failure, then the incumbent has no place left to go. He can't go back and say, don't believe your own eyes when you see what Mitt Romney's like. Believe my negative ads. And I think that in 1980, that was precisely the conundrum that Carter found himself in, and he lost the election. And I think history now is very much repeating itself. I think that the shift that's begun to take place as a result of Romney's first debate and second debate victories, I think will continue, and ultimately will result in a resounding Romney victory, just as Ronald Reagan won by a resounding victory in similar circumstances in 1980. Thanks very much for watching.